Baseball is a zero-sum game. If someone hits a 500-foot home run, some poor pitcher has to surrender it. If someone strikes out 15 batters in a game, some poor lineup has to endure it. If some players are gonna break out this year, hopefully like the guys on my 5 hitters I like and 5 pitchers I like lists, that means some players are gonna fail to meet expectations. And that's who this video is about. 5 players I dislike going into 2023. Logan Gilbert throws one of the best four-seam fastballs of any starter in the game, and he throws it hard, averaging 96 miles per hour on the pitch that made him a big deal. And with a 3.2 ERA across 185 innings last year, some hope the young right-hander can take another step forward and become a Cy Young contender for Seattle. What's going to make or break Gilbert this year is the development of his secondaries. Down the stretch, he started experimenting with different variations of his slider, and he spent the offseason at Driveline developing a new splitter. What I'm doing here is not letting the prospect of new pitches sway me before he's actually proven anything. In 2022, Gilbert was neither a big strikeout guy nor a big ground ball guy simply because he wasn't throwing stuff that batters like to chase out of the zone. I suspect that he won't deliver on the adjustments to his pitching arsenal. He can't keep getting away with it. Among qualified pitchers in the National League, Julio Urias had the league best ERA at 2.16. His Sierra, which is my preferred ERA estimator, was 3.66, worse than Charlie Morton's. What factors allow a pitcher to outperform their peripherals? Well, Urias stranded 87% of his runners on base last year, by far the best in Major League Baseball. Nobody else even came close. If that came down to a reasonably elite 80%, that's still 10 more runs scoring. My biggest concern is actually the Dodgers defense itself, which has made a lot of pitchers look really good over the years. Trayce Thompson is worse at center field than Cody Bellinger, Trey Turner is gone, Gavin Lux is hurt, and the rule changes regarding the shift will hamper the Dodgers creatively. Between that and his declining fastball velocity, I don't think Urias will meet expectations after a top 3 Cy Young finish last year. Vaughn Grissom is under an unfair amount of pressure. He's expected to field a crucial defensive position, replacing a beloved player on one of the league's best teams, and he's played a whopping 63 professional games above high A ball. His good friend Michael Harris II made a similar leap on his way to Rookie of the Year, but that's far from the norm. Grissom put together a wonderful 291 average, 353 on base, and 440 slugging slash line for the big league club last year, yet still lost his starting spot to Orlando Arcia during the crucial final games of the season. Who is to say that doesn't happen again? Many doubt that Grissom is capable of handling shortstop defensively, and if that doubt creeps into his offensive game, he'll be relegated to the bench or the minors. I think Vaughn Grissom can be a really good player for my Braves over the long term, but in 2023, he's a player that I dislike. Andres Gimenez is coming off a monster breakout year at the age of 23, rocking 7.4 baseball reference WAR and a 141 OPS+. But offensively speaking, I'm just not seeing it. Last year, Gimenez had a 20% strikeout rate to just a 6% walk rate. He chased over 40% of pitches outside the strike zone, tied for 6th worst among qualified hitters in MLB. Most hitters who succeed despite poor plate discipline do so because they hit for a lot of power, but Gimenez doesn't. His average exit velocity and barrel rate were well below the league average in 2022. I'm seeing a young hitter who chases a lot and doesn't barrel the ball up. To me, there's no indication he'll come close to his offensive performance from last season, where he outperformed his StatCast expected batting average by a whopping 40 points. He'll still derive plenty of value from his excellent glove at second base, but I expect some serious offensive regression in 2023. It's as if Major League Baseball came together and conspired to make Kenley Jansen's life harder this offseason. With the new pitch clock, the 35-year-old closer is going to have to make a serious late career adjustment. He was the slowest pitcher in MLB with runners on base last year. Speaking of runners on base, the bases themselves are going to be larger this year in an attempt to reinvigorate base stealing, but Jansen already surrenders stolen bases at Rod Barajas rates. Base stealers are successful 93% of the time when he's on the mound. Sure, he doesn't allow base runners often, but once they're on board, they're free to move around the cabin. The balk rule change won't help either. Although he led the National League in saves last year, I don't think he'll be able to adjust to these changes. I dislike Kenley Jansen this year, and I dislike this contract for Boston. It's worth keeping in mind that I dislike these players relative to expectations. In most of these cases, I went out of my way to pick young players coming off really good seasons. It's easy to pick a player in decline to keep on declining, but I'm not doing that here. What I am doing is reminding you that you can get 20% off your StatHead subscription with code Foolish20. But you don't just have Foolish20 to get excited about. Next up, how about Foolish50?